Hey there, this is Niels Beardfoot, and today I want to show you how to make this wolf head. Looks nice on the wall and also on your shoulder. As always, we start with printing out the pattern, cutting away the edges and taping it together. Next, you want to separate the pieces and then cut out the pattern in detail. Put the pattern on the leather and trace the edge lines and cut it out. 2.5mm wedge tanned leather is recommended. When cutting out the teeth, a hole punch comes in very handy. Also, I recommend cutting only one side of the teeth for now and the other one later. Trace along the edges the parallel line for the hole punches and then punch the sewing holes. Next, you want to bevel all the edges that will not be sewn to another edge. Moisten the pieces from both sides completely. Next, you can start putting on texture, and that's what I here do with a stylus on the nose of the wolf and also on the palatine. For the teeth, transfer the lines and then use a beveler to get in the deep impressions. Along the flesh side, you want to cut a groove and fold the teeth over. Then you put on some contact cement and glue it on. Now you want to cut away all the excess leather, use a hole punch to make this easier. And this way your teeth edges are gonna line up perfectly. Use a burnisher to smooth out the teeth a little bit. Next, you want to thin out the leather on the flesh side around the eyes. Apply a black base coat on all the leather pieces and the ears also on the flesh side. Use acrylic paint to paint the teeth. With antique gel, you get everything darkened and it will stay in the cracks and openings, and wipe away all the excess and seal it here with a resist afterwards. Put the resist also on the edges so you can use the moisture to burnish them. On the nose and teeth you can use the moisture also to pre-shape them. Use some hot water in a pot to harden the head piece and leave it there for about 25 minutes. After this, the clock starts ticking. After about 5 hours, you can apply contact cement on the flesh side and also on the fur and glue both pieces together, but leave out the ears. On the fur, it is recommended to trace the edges of the big head piece first before you put on the contact cement. When it's not tacky anymore, you can put on the headpiece, position it carefully first, press it on and hammer it down. After that you can start cutting out roughly and then cut away all the excess fur in detail. Next, you want to punch the sewing holes again also through the fur. Note that this step and all the following have to be done before the leather is completely dry. Next, you want to rough up the leather on the ears and glue the fur ears on. Please note that you put the ears on the opposite side of all the other fur. Cut away excess fur, put on some contact cement on the lashes and glue them on. And don't forget to punch the holes for the sewing like I did here. You want to pre-shave a little bit the area between the eyes to make sewing easier. The leather is still moist, we start sewing. Start with the area of the eyes and then of the mouth, and then sew together the area between the nose and the eyes, then on the forehead and then between the eyes. And definitely use a sewing thread with the same color as your fur, not like other people did and they had to re-sew everything. The ears come last and you may have to shave free the holes first. Next comes the shaving of the fur, and you want to take your time with this. Use some pictures as reference, but in generally you want to cut away a lot of fur and make the hair very short around the mouth, between the eyes and the nose, and around the eyes. Also cut away fur on the ears to make them free and let it from the front to the back, the fur become a little bit longer. You not necessarily have to do everything now, I also did a lot in later stages. Next you want to sew on the nose. Use the pre-existing holes for the sewing area between the eyes and the nose to get the nose in place. Clamp it down and use an awl to punch all the holes and sew the nose on. Next up, the teeth. Clamp them in position. Mark where you have to put on some glue and rough up the area there and put on contact cement on the teeth and also on the inside of the wolf mouth. Take your time with the first positioning to make it perfect and then press on the sides. Use an awl to punch the sewing holes here again and sew the teeth on. With some acrylic paint, you can paint the fur and make it a little bit more dirty. This, in my opinion, gives it a more realistic view, and you can use your finger and a hairbrush to distribute the dye evenly and make it look natural. For the jaw, this procedure is very similar. You want to mark where you put the jaw bone with the teeth, put it in position there, check twice that everything fits, rough up the teeth, put on some contact cement and glue the fur on. You may want to dye the leather of the fur first before you do this. Glue in a strap to stabilize the jaw. And glue on the sides of the fur to the jaw. Next you want to put the two jaw pieces on the sides of the jaw bone and shave away all the fur that would be underneath it and put some contact cement on and glue it on. Cut away any excess leather and re-dye the edge. Then punch the sewing holes and sew it. And here I remember that I should have dyed that leather first. As with the other upper teeth, you wanna punch some holes and sew the teeth on. Then position the jar on the head, clamp it down and mark where you have to punch the holes for the screw rivets. And punch the holes. And put on the screw rivets. I used an attachment like this together with the rest of the fur to make this an awesome shoulder armor. And that's it already. You're done. Note that I have put on some fabric in the eyes together with some LEDs. I hope you liked this. Leave a like and a comment if you did. Check out my other videos and see you guys next time. Ciao!